It happened in a quiet, almost picture-perfect Ohio suburb on Halloween night, 2019. Picture it. The air was crisp, just cool enough for that first real sweater of the season. Leaves, a riot of reds and golds, were starting to clog the gutters, and plastic skeletons swayed gently from porch eaves, their bony arms clattering in the occasional breeze. Every house was a festive display, glowing with jack-o'-lanterns and strung with orange lights. The Jacobs family, Mom, Dad, and their 2 kids, a boy and a girl, were doing what any polite household does on Halloween, handing out candy, enjoying the parade of tiny superheroes and princesses. The trick-or-treat traffic started to slow down around 9 o'clock. The last few stragglers had come and gone, their little voices fading into the autumn night. So, the Jacobs decided to call it a night for the active candy distribution. Dad flicked off the porch light, a signal that the fun was mostly over. But, being the generous type, they left a big bowl of Reese's Cups outside on the welcome mat, a little treat for any latecomers. Then, they settled onto the couch, ready to unwind with a classic horror movie. What could go wrong, right? At precisely 9:42 p.m., the doorbell rang. Not a gentle chime, but 3 sharp, rapid bursts. Ding dong ding. Dad, a little annoyed at being pulled from his movie, checked the security camera feed on his phone. Nothing. No one. He frowned. He cracked the front door open, peering out into the twilight. The porch was empty. The bowl of Reese's was gone, but oddly, it was placed neatly back on the mat. He shrugged, figuring it was just some kids pulling a quick prank, a classic Halloween move. He closed the door, a small chuckle escaping him. 20 minutes later, it happened again. Ding dong ding. 3 rapid rings. Dad checked the camera again. Still nothing. He opened the door. Empty porch, no kids in sight, and the candy bowl once again was sitting perfectly centered on the mat. This time, Mom, trying to lighten the mood, joked, "Well, I guess ghosts have sweet teeth, huh?" They both laughed, a little less comfortably this time. The joke felt a bit forced. Then, the bell rang a 3rd time. But this wasn't 3 rapid rings. This was one long, continuous press. A deep, almost angry buzz that seemed to vibrate through the entire house. It felt deliberate. Dad's amusement vanished, replaced by a surge of irritation and a prickle of unease. He stomped to the door, swung it wide open, ready to tell off whatever teenagers were messing with them. But there was no one there. Just the cool night air and the swaying plastic skeletons. As he was about to close the door, something caught his eye. Wedged carefully under the welcome mat, where the candy bowl had been, was a folded index card. His stomach dropped as he picked it up. It was still warm, as if someone had just been holding it, or maybe just left it there. Handwritten in blocky, aggressive Sharpie, the message chilled him to the bone. "You'll have to be quicker than that. How about you check upstairs?" That's when the blood drained from his face. This wasn't a prank. This was a violation. He slammed the door shut, locking it with a frantic click, then another and another. He yelled to Mom to call 911, his voice tight with a fear he hadn't felt in years. Without thinking, he grabbed the camping hatchet from its hook in the garage, its weight strangely reassuring in his trembling hand. He crept towards the stairs, each step a silent prayer. The kids were still on the couch, mesmerized by the flickering horror movie on TV, blissfully unaware that a real-life nightmare was unfolding just feet away. Each creak of the old wooden stairs sounded like a gunshot in the suddenly silent hall. Halfway up, a strange, cloying smell hit him. Candle wax, yes, but underneath it, something metallic. Something coppery and sharp. His heart hammered against his ribs. At the top of the stairs, the hallway nightlight, usually a comforting glow, was out. He fumbled along the wall, flicking the switch. Nothing. He pulled out his cell phone, its flashlight beam a weak, trembling sword against the oppressive darkness. The light danced across the master bedroom door. It was ajar, and the lock, scratched clean as if someone had painstakingly, deliberately disabled it. He pushed the door open slowly, the hatchet held high. Inside, the window was pried open, shards of glass glinting on the carpet like malevolent stars. A cold, damp autumn wind poured in, raising goosebumps on his arms. But what truly froze him was the sight on their bed. Laid out in a neat, horrifying line, like surgical tools, were a steak knife from their own kitchen block, a roll of duct tape, and a length of clothesline rope. It wasn't just a break-in, it was a promise. A terrifying, meticulously planned threat. Dad backed out of the room, shutting the door as quietly as he could. He descended the stairs, the hatchet now feeling impossibly heavy, his hands trembling so violently he almost dropped it. He waited at the foot of the stairs, a silent sentinel for the police to arrive. And arrive they did. 4 minutes later, a record response time for that quiet town. Officers swarmed the house, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. They swept every room, the attic, the dusty basement, the yard. Whoever had left the note and staged that chilling display was gone. No fingerprints, no clear footprints outside, nothing. The security camera, when reviewed, only captured a fleeting glimpse of a hooded figure bending once at the welcome mat, then melting back into the shadows. Detectives later explained a chilling fact to the Jacobs. Intruders sometimes ring the doorbell repeatedly to test the house, to see if anyone's home, if anyone's paying attention. 3 rings often meant they believed the house looked vulnerable, unoccupied. The objects upstairs weren't just random items. They were staged, a deliberate psychological taunt, a message. The officers told them in somber tones that had Dad ignored the note, had he not reacted, the plan would likely have escalated to confrontation. The thought made Mom physically ill. The Jacobs family never spent another night in that house. They couldn't. The sanctity of their home, their sense of safety, had been utterly shattered. They moved in with grandparents, sleeping uneasily under a different roof, and by spring, the house was on the market. The realtor, by law, disclosed the break-in to potential buyers. Most shrugged it off, dismissing it as a random incident, until 6 months later, the new owners found a second note. Tucked behind the breaker box in the garage, in the same blocky, aggressive handwriting, were 2 simple, terrifying words. "See you soon." Police reopened the case, but to this day, there have been no arrests. Just a thick file, 2 haunting notes, and a family who now keeps every single light burning each Halloween. A desperate attempt to ward off the darkness that once found its way inside. It was October 2021, deep in upstate New York. This was old farm country where fields lay harvested bare, their stubble rattling in the wind, and crows gathered thick as smoke against the pale autumn sky. The kind of place where history lingers and secrets settle into the very foundations of forgotten buildings. Maya, a 23-year-old urban explorer, thrived on these secrets. Her Instagram feed was a testament to her daring, a curated collection of forgotten beauty and decay. She specialized in Urbex, exploring abandoned properties, capturing their haunting allure for her growing legion of followers. That day, she was driving down a winding back road, the kind that feels like it leads nowhere, when she spotted it. A 19th century Victorian house, its once grand facade now crumbling, clapboards flaking like old paint, a skeletal porch sagging under its own weight. A rusted, flattened "For Sale" sign lay half buried in the overgrown grass. This wasn't just another abandoned house. It was a masterpiece of dereliction, isolated and eerily beautiful. No neighbors for at least half a mile, just whispering fields and ancient trees. Perfect. She pulled over, her heart quickening with that familiar thrill. After a quick scan of the perimeter, she found the front door. Unlocked, of course. They almost always were. The moment she stepped inside, a strange scent enveloped her. A cloying mix of sweet, fermented cider and something else. Something rotten, like damp earth and forgotten dreams. Dust motes danced in the slivers of light piercing through grimy windows, illuminating faint footprints on the floor. But they were old, clearly nothing recent. She moved from room to room, her camera phone snapping, capturing the peeling wallpaper, the overturned furniture, the ghosts of lives once lived. Each click was a story told, a memory preserved. Then, off the kitchen, she noticed it, a narrow, unassuming door. It looked like any other pantry door, but a distinct chill emanated from beneath it. The air felt 10 degrees colder, a sharp contrast to the stale, room temperature air of the main floor. She pushed it open. Basement stairs yawned below, a gaping maw of darkness. Maya almost skipped it. She knew the trope. The classic horror movie error, the one where the protagonist always goes into the basement. But her followers loved those descent into darkness shots. They craved the thrill, the unknown. And honestly, so did she. Ignoring the prickle of unease that crawled up her spine, she clicked on her phone's flashlight, its beam a weak spear against the gloom, and started down. The wooden steps groaned and bowed under her weight, nails squealing a mournful protest with each descent. Halfway down, the temperature plunged again, drastically. She could see her breath fogging in front of her face, a visible manifestation of the cold that seemed to sink into her very bones. At the foot of the stairs, her flashlight beam found them. 2 tall pillar candles, standing upright on a small, rickety card table. What struck her first was their unnatural stillness. Their flames were tall and motionless, almost painted onto the air. Like time itself had paused in this subterranean space. Wax had pooled at their bases, but hadn't dripped, hadn't moved. It was as if they had just been lit, or perhaps had been burning for an eternity, defying gravity and logic. Beside them, a wooden rocking chair swayed gently, back and forth, back and forth. No window was open, no breeze could reach this deep underground. Yet it rocked, with a slow, deliberate rhythm. And on one arm of the chair, a pale hand rested, fingers relaxed, almost inviting. The chair faced away from her, its occupant obscured by the high back. Her first instinct, the urban explorer's rationalization, was that some squatter was playing a creepy joke, a staged scene for an unsuspecting visitor. "Hello?" she called out, her voice echoing unnervingly in the subterranean silence. No reaction. The chair kept rocking. She stepped closer, the floorboards groaning under her feet, each sound amplified in the stillness. The rocking continued, a steady hypnotic tick-tock, like a morbid heartbeat. She raised her camera phone, the flash ready. This would be an incredible shot for her Instagram. The instant the phone fired, the bright burst of light illuminated every dust particle in the air, and the 2 pillar candles snuffed out simultaneously. Not flickered, not dwindled, but snuffed. Total, absolute blackness descended, thick and suffocating. The rocking chair, mid-rock, stopped dead. The silence that followed was immense, swallowing the room, swallowing the sound of her own ragged breathing. Panic, cold and sharp, surged through her. This wasn't a squatter's prank. This was something else entirely. She backpedaled, her hands flailing wildly in the darkness, desperate to find the stair rail. She found it, her fingers scraping against the splintered wood, and scrambled up the steps, not caring about the noise, not caring about anything but escape. Behind her, from the depths of the basement, she heard something scrape. Not footsteps, not a chair falling, but something heavy, something being dragged across the floor. It sounded like furniture, or something worse. She burst through the narrow door, slamming it shut with all her might, pressing her weight against it, bracing herself, expecting a forceful shove from the other side. None came, just the continued unnerving silence from below. Outside, dusk had fallen fast, painting the sky in bruised purples and grays. The isolation of the property, once an alluring feature, now felt menacing. She sprinted to her car, keys jangling wildly in her shaking hand. The engine roared to life on the first try, a small mercy. As she reversed, glancing nervously at the house, she noticed something that sent another jolt of icy fear through her. Every window remained dark, black voids against the fading light. Every window, that is, except one small cellar pane. From deep within the basement, a faint, familiar glow reappeared. The same candlelight, as though someone or something had calmly relit them. Maya floored it, the gravel spitting from beneath her tires as she sped away. At the nearest gas station, a beacon of fluorescent light and lukewarm coffee, she pulled over and checked her photos. Every single basement image she had taken was just black. A void. Yet one picture, time-stamped seconds before the flash that had plunged her into darkness, revealed the rocking chair. It was turned towards the camera now. The occupant was gone, but clearly visible on the armrest, a pale, distinct handprint, a chilling echo of the hand she'd seen moments before. She filed a police report, her voice trembling as she recounted the impossible events. Deputies investigated, finding the card table overturned, the candles broken, scattered on the floor, but no footprints other than Maya's own. They suggested squatters, perhaps, had been scared off by her unexpected presence, but no squatters ever returned, and the house remained empty, its secrets undisturbed. Maya still posts Urbex shots, her passion undimmed, but her captions now carry a different, more somber tone. Every autumn upload ends with the same unsettling warning. Some stairs only go down. Don't follow the light. It was late September 2020, and the air was alive with the promise of autumn. Outside Asheville, North Carolina, a family-run pumpkin patch buzzed with cheerful activity. This wasn't some haunted attraction. It was pure, wholesome harvest fun. Hayrides rumbled through fields. Children chased each other through a sprawling corn maze, and the sweet, sticky scent of caramel apples hung heavy in the air. Saturday evening was drawing to a close, the crowds thinning as the sun began to bleed its last fiery colors into the iconic Blue Ridge fog. Curtis, a 17-year-old volunteer, was helping with the closing duties. He was a good kid, responsible, and used to the festive chaos of the patch. He was walking the perimeter, picking up stray wrappers and forgotten corn cobs, when he spotted something unusual. About 50 yards out, in the unmowed field just beyond the hay bales, someone was kneeling. The figure wore robes, stark white against the deepening twilight, head bowed, arms dangling loosely at their sides. Motionless, utterly still. No face visible, just the hood of the robe. Curtis initially assumed it was a lost customer, maybe someone taking an odd, artsy photo for Instagram. It was Halloween season after all. People did strange things. He cupped his hands and called out, "Sir? Ma'am? Excuse me." "We're closing." The figure didn't flinch, didn't stir. Curtis, a little perplexed, started walking closer. As he approached, he noticed something even stranger. The robes seemed impossibly clean, almost pristine, for someone kneeling in a dusty field. The fabric almost glowed, radiating a soft, ethereal luminescence in the fading light. Then, a truly unsettling detail. The person's knees weren't bent. Their body hovered inches above the grass, like they were praying, but completely unsupported. It defied gravity. A sudden gust of wind rattled the corn maze gates, a sound like a dry whisper. The white robe fluttered softly, yet the figure itself remained utterly anchored, unmoving. Hair or hood still obscured any profile, any hint of a face. Curtis felt an intense, undeniable sensation of being watched, even though the head never lifted, never turned his way. A cold knot tightened in his stomach. This wasn't a customer. This wasn't a prank. He backed away slowly, his eyes glued to the unsettling figure, then turned and jogged, almost ran back to the main barn. Inside, the adult staff were laughing, the cheerful clatter of counting cash drawers filling the air. "Mr. Darnell," Curtis blurted out, a little breathless, his voice tight. "There's someone out in the field." "They're weird." He tried to explain the hovering, the robes, the unsettling stillness. Mr. Darnell, the owner, a jovial man used to the antics of teenagers, just chuckled. "Probably some kids messing around, Curtis. Or maybe a new scarecrow someone put up." Still, he grabbed a couple of heavy-duty flashlights and they returned to the field. It was empty. Completely. No sign of the white-robed figure. No footprints in the soft earth. Not a single broken stem or disturbed patch of grass. Darnell just shrugged, attributing it to teens playing a prank. Or maybe Curtis's imagination running wild in the spooky autumn evening. They finished locking the gates, shut off the last of the pole lights, and killed the tinny carnival music that had been playing all day. Curtis, still feeling a chill, climbed into the barn loft to store some hay bales. From his elevated vantage point through the wide-open bay door, he glanced out towards the field one last time, and there it was, the same white shape. But now, it wasn't 50 yards out. It was inside the fence line, just 30 feet from the ticket booth, much, much closer. Still kneeling, facing its unnerving stillness amplified by its proximity. He yelled, a raw, choked sound that brought the other staff running. Flashlight beams crisscrossed the field like frantic searchlights. One beam caught the robes, and the figure simply wasn't there. It vanished between blinks, like someone had abruptly changed TV channels. Just gone. They swept the entire pumpkin patch with 20 volunteers, flashlights piercing the deepening night. Nothing. Not a trace. Darnell, now visibly disturbed, closed early, sending everyone home with an uneasy feeling hanging in the air. Curtis tossed and turned all night. The image of the hovering figure burned into his mind. At 3:12 a.m., his phone buzzed, a jarring sound in the quiet house. It was a text from Mr. Darnell. Barn fire. By the time emergency crews arrived, the stable, which housed the rental ponies and all the hay stores, was fully engulfed. The official cause was listed as electrical, but investigators found no faulty wiring, no overloaded circuits. The fuel load, they noted, was impossibly high, leaving little evidence behind. Curtis knew the timeline. The thing appeared, disappeared, and hours later, flames. He couldn't shake the feeling. Driven by a desperate need for answers, Curtis researched local lore. He dug through old town archives, dusty historical society records, and obscure online forums. He stumbled upon a chilling piece of history. That very land, where the pumpkin patch now stood, once hosted autumn revivals in the 1890s. an itinerant preacher of fire and brimstone type, had condemned what he called harvest idols, specifically pumpkins, as devil fruit symbols of paganism. The story claimed this preacher had vanished mid-sermon one autumn night. His terrified congregation found only his robes laid out in the field, his body never located. A ghost story, an urban legend, or something more? The next weekend, Curtis returned to help rebuild. He arrived at dawn, the patch silent, save for the mournful cries of crows. The smell of charred wood still hung thick and heavy in the crisp morning air. As he walked towards the main barn, he saw it. At the far end of the parking lot, under the lonely flickering sodium lamp, something white. It was the same robes, the same unnerving kneel. It raised one hand, a slow, deliberate gesture, the sleeve sliding back to reveal nothing, no flesh, just the empty fabric. And it beckoned. Curtis didn't tell anyone. He didn't scream. He didn't run. He just got in his truck, started the engine, and drove off. He never came back. The pumpkin patch reopened the following fall, with a new barn, new wiring, and new insurance. They still sell pumpkins, run hay rides, and post sunny, cheerful photos on social media. But every closing shift, the staff walk the fence line in pairs. And if you happen to park late, your engine cooling, the only sound, the ticking of metal, you just might see a white speck, kneeling patiently beyond the light, waiting for a harvest that, for some, never truly ends. So if these stories made you check over your shoulder, or maybe glance nervously at that shadow in the corner, do me a quick favor. Hit that like button so YouTube knows you're hungry for more true horror. Tap subscribe to join our community of nightmare enthusiasts and get weekly doses of the unsettling. And please drop a comment below telling me the creepiest, most unexplainable thing you've ever seen during the fall season. Your story could be the one we feature in our next video. We're always looking for those real-life shivers. As the days grow shorter and the nights grow longer, remember these tales. Lock the doors, blow out the candles, and maybe, just maybe, skip that last-minute pumpkin run. Because while you might be drifting off to sleep, thinking of sweet dreams, something else is already awake, watching the leaves fall, waiting for the perfect moment to remind you that some things are just beyond explanation. Stay safe out there.